Welcome back to Domino Theory, the podcast at the crossroads of business, media, and politics. I'm Christian Whiton in Bangkok today, joined as always by co-host Mark Simon, who comes to us from Taipei. And our guest today will be Garrett Exner of the Hudson Institute, where he's an adjunct fellow focused on foreign policy. Previously, he was a military legislative assistant for Ted Cruz, senator from Texas, who's in a re-election fight of his own. First, briefly, the lead-in. We have the presidential race. We're in the final month, coming down the home stretch. Voting has begun in some states, and early voting picks up in earnest shortly. You have a tightening race, too, where Donald Trump is closing the gap, seemingly, or at least maintaining a narrow gap among the national polls, and doing very well in the swing states he has to win. He only has to pick up one of the blue-leaning swing states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin, and seems to be in a very good position in the Republican-leaning swing states that he must win: North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona. I should put up Nevada as a Democrat-leaning swing state as well. And internal polls and even some external polls now have him up in Michigan. Previously, he was up narrowly in Pennsylvania. Of course, you get some outliers that show him behind. Democrats in their fever dreams think that they may win the presidency and even knock off Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, even though Cruz has been consistently ahead in literally, I believe, every single poll. The other part of the scene here is, of course, the response to the hurricanes. Democrats badly fumbled the response to the first one. I think you had Dolly Parton have to come out with $1 million of her own saying, "These are my people. I want to help them." I don't think she was making a political point, but the implication was from that and from other actions that the Democrats don't think that these are their people, and have unlearned the lesson that George Bush learned the hard way with Katrina, that presidents have to respond and have to be seen responding to national emergencies and natural disasters. And you had the odd case where Kamala Harris supposedly tried to call the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis. Why would a vice president call a governor in a crisis? That call needs to come from the president. And eventually Joe Biden did call him, which was seen as a schism within the Democrat campaign. Just a general sense that the Harris Waltz ticket is not using the most of this last month or the last month up to this point, whereas the Trump campaign has been connecting with voters in a feeling that is somewhat similar to 2016. Then, of course, there is one Asia element that has finally come into the campaign. I wish there were more China policy, of course, as a policy wonk. But Kamala Harris was asked on 60 Minutes about her policy toward China and Taiwan, and she reiterated that her administration would support a one China policy, even though everyone can see there are many Chinas, and not just the one controlled by the CCP, and basically said Taiwan can buy the means of its defense, but that she wouldn't necessarily commit U.S. forces. This is interesting, since Joe Biden himself said on multiple occasions he would defend Taiwan. He was walked back from those statements, sometimes before he left the podium, by his own staff. But it was an interesting sentiment, and apparently that is now gone from the Democrat side of things. And even though Harris doesn't really have a coherent foreign policy, much less an Asia policy, the establishment has at least hammered into her mind that catechism that we believe in one China and, the other bells and whistles, which essentially amount to strategic ambiguity. That's the lead-in.